And so I was on a plane just a few weeks ago, and I kept feeling something touch my legs for the entire ride, the duration of my ride. And here's the setup. I flew American Airlines. I didn't have anyone in the middle seat next to me, and I was in the aisle. And there was a woman that was my age in the seat in the window.
That's the dream, dude. Dream setup, I feel like, for a guy like yourself. You can man spread a little bit, chat it up with the lady. I mean, I know I'm cutting you off early in the story, but this is going through a lot of people's minds. This is a slam dunk for old B-Dog.
And so we're on our way to Dallas, Fort Worth. And it's 5 a.m. 5 a.m. That's when the flight was. So I've been up since 2:30. I actually spent the night with you. Well, not in the same room or the same bed, but in the same place. And I get to the airport. Well, 5 a.m. flight is part of the story. Just remember that. So the first thing is we get off in the air, and immediately this woman unbuckles her seatbelt. And remember, we don't have a person in the middle seat. So she pulls out a full-on blanket, and she puts her feet in the middle seat and lays like she's laying down. And I'm in the aisle seat. And there was no communication about this. And I was just like,
Is this true?
This is dead serious. Dead serious. How, like, this woman either paid for 2 seats, which I respect, but I don't think that's what happened. And so I'm thinking, what is this woman doing? I mean, I get that it's early, but you don't just put your feet next to a man, you know what I'm saying? So that's part of the story. And then I, of course, cannot put my feet in the middle seat anymore because, well, her feet are there. That was my plan all along. So I put my feet back in front of me, and I feel someone else's foot on my leg. And it's the man behind me. You know how you can get your feet underneath the seat if you don't have a bag under his seat? He did not have a bag under his seat. So his feet were actually sticking out from under my seat, and they were hitting the back of my legs. And I thought to myself, well, now I have nowhere to go. I got feet on my right side. I got feet underneath me, and the left side's the aisle. Well, then you just have because mothers and their babies are on this flight, so you have mothers and fathers trying to silence their children, and the lights were on in the flight, and they flickered the lights, and the children were quiet. And then they turned on the lights, and the children screamed. And I just was thinking to myself, turn off the lights. Turn off the lights.
That's a classic.
And the point of my story is that 5 a.m. flights, it's I feel like you're in a different world. People are just weird on 5 a.m. flights. And the guy behind me that was touching my legs with his feet, he was talking to this little child, this young girl who was not talking to him at all, who was kind of looking at him very nervously. And he was like, "What's your name? What's your name?" He's like, "That's a cute name." And I said, "Dude, you got to stop. You got to stop." Her
You're
mother's
like, I will
right
call
there.
the authorities.
Isn't there a marshal on this plane? I need this guy for his feet and this woman for her feet. Get him off the plane. And it's just an interesting experience. I mean, we all made it safely, and I am happy that they both enjoyed their flights. And honestly, it was a blessing from the Lord that no one was in the middle seat, so this young lady could do that. But you just never know what's going to happen on a 5 a.m. flight.
You really don't. I feel like you should have asked the girl next to you if she paid for the seat, because you could very easily just pull a, hey, did you pay for this seat? No, I didn't. And you say, right, because I did, so that I could put my feet in there. And then you put your feet over there. Stinky feet. Not saying you have stinky feet, but I mean, what girl wants, feet like right up next to her on a 5 a.m. flight where she's trying to sleep? Whereas a lot of guys like yourself probably wouldn't mind a couple feet right next to you while you're trying to sleep,
As long as they smell terrible, it's totally fine.
Right. But the dude behind you, there's absolutely no excuse for that. That is, first off, I've never had that issue because my legs aren't long enough to reach that whole way. So I guess, cool, your legs are long, but at the same time, have some common decency. I know earlier this year, I took a 5 a.m. flight out of Orlando, and the lady behind me bought a Whopper from the Burger King. It was the only thing open at the Orlando airport. She bought a Whopper meal, so she had fries and a Whopper. Did not eat them on the flight. She put them underneath my seat in front of her. So I'm trying to sleep on this 5 a.m. flight, and all I smell is just cheeseburger. And it is 5 a.m. is not the time you want to be smelling a cheeseburger, So the rest of the day, I kind of smell like grease and, patty and all this other stuff. But yeah, I agree with you. A 5 a.m. flight is wild. I would honestly, I would think, if I didn't have any past experiences, if someone said regular flight versus a 5 a.m. flight, which one's going to be more weird? I would say regular, because 5 a.m., everybody's tired. You would think everyone just kind of, no one's making any noise. Everyone keeps to themselves and is asleep. Like, I would probably, I would think it would be adjacent to like a ride on the tube in London. Everybody's keeping it tight, keeping it quiet. Nobody's looking around, eyes forward. But really, it's not what you would expect.
Next stop, Leicester City. Exit right. See something, say something.
See it, say it, sorted. Next up, Waterloo. But yeah, that's crazy, dude. You didn't tell me that this chick had her feet up in your lap, dude, while you're trying to sleep on this flight. That's pretty crazy. That is insane. I thought you were going to say, I don't know. I thought you said she unbuckled. I thought you were going to say she slid over to the seat next to you and like tried to get to know you or something. But kicking the feet up is a bold move, especially when you don't broach the subject. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There was no communication about it. There was no, hey, here's my plan. When this flight start, I'm going to unbuckle my seatbelt, I'm going to grab my blankie, and I'm going to lay down so I can sleep. If she told me that, I'd be like, hey, you have fun with that. But I close my eyes for 3 minutes. I open my eyes, I look to my right, and I just see feet next to me, and I think, this is an interesting thing that I found myself in. You're
like, have I been asleep for an hour? I'm like, when did this happen? And you're so sneaky. What's your name, by the way? Oh, that's funny. And this flight left out of Tampa. Yeah.
It did. And granted, these people have just gotten hit by a hurricane, so there's an immense amount of grace. Maybe this was the first time she actually got to sprawl out on a leather padded surface in the first time in a week or so. So I'm not here to judge. I am here to share that it is just an interesting experience. It's an interesting move, but again, when people lack sleep, they don't have great judgment statistically. Yeah,
no, that's definitely fair. are you obviously, probably not on a super early flight, but a normal afternoon flight? Are you you're coming in for the descent, you touch down, and it is a smooth touchdown. He's riding the brakes, doesn't stomp on it. Because there's some, I have flown Spirit, I've flown Frontier numerous times. Those boys slam it into the ground and stand on the freaking brake, dude. I'm telling you. And it is like my forehead is going into the back of the seat in front of me. But if you get that smooth landing, are you the kind of guy that, hey, let's give an applause for the pilot? Or do you, what's your vibe with that?
So normally no, but actually on this flight, as they landed, they turned on the lights. So the kids, they started making some noise, and I thought it was part of the whole thing. So I started standing up and like, that was awesome. Great job. Great flight, everybody. And then I turn around and I see it's the kids, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to sit back down and we're going to not act like that happened. But normally, no. But if there is a commotion, I'm all for it. I'll join in.
Yeah, I love to clap, ironically. It's obviously a very boomer thing to do, Hey, we landed this plane, I'm sure back in their day it was a miracle. The Wright brothers had just kind of came around. So it was like, look, we made it back on the ground safely. We need to clap for this man for all that he's done for our country. I love to clap when we land. I also, you didn't ask for this little story, but I'm going to give it to you. We were flying into Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and we land and we go to taxi, and we have to taxi across one of the, what do you call it? Runway. So we have to cross one of the runways, and the plane stops like in the middle of the runway, and it slowly starts moving again. But this lady on the right side of the plane sees another plane coming into land, and no one else is really concerned because we were moving pretty good, crossing in front of this plane. But she apparently thought that this plane was going to T-bone us, and she screams, "OF, we're all about to die." I kid you not. And I'm just thinking, look, the flight's over. We've already landed. I'm thinking any chance of a terrorist plot at this point is, behind us. And some lady screams, "OF, we're about to die." I'm like, this is really not a good thing to yell on a plane. But yeah, we kept on moving, and, to no one's surprise, except for her, we did not get T-boned by the landing plane. So that made my heart race a little bit. I'm not going to lie.
That's a powerful little tidbit. Yeah, I think you bring up a good point. Is we think back in the day it was something amazing. It was like, whoa, how in the world? But we've gotten so used to it that it doesn't amaze us. But I think we'd be remiss if we didn't take time to recognize the hands and the skills and the knowledge it takes to land planes, to fly planes, to create planes. God created those people, and we want to celebrate that. And if that looks like clapping after a plane lands, I think that's a fair way to celebrate. And so I don't want you to stop celebrating in that manner. I want you to be encouraged to celebrate in that manner, actually.
I appreciate that. I really do.
What I will say is, have you ever heard this trend of raw dogging a flight?
I've heard of it once on a podcast. I don't think I quite, I don't think I fully understand, but I understand the basic premise of it. But if you could take us through that, I would certainly appreciate it.
Yeah. So, if you want to raw dog a flight, you sit there with no technology no books. You just sit there. And it's basically no distraction. It's you sit in a plane and you think about covering yourself metaphorically, right? We in our day-to-day, we cover ourselves, whether that be out of anxiety, social awkwardness, comfort. We cover ourselves, we clothe ourselves with metaphoric or proverbial clothes so that we may be more comfortable and less ashamed, less exposed is really the word I'm looking for. So we open Instagram, we feed our minds with things that make us comfortable. Well, raw dogging a flight, well, what makes you comfortable on a flight? Well, usually it's playing music on your phone, it's watching something on the monitors if you have that. It's having snacks, it's reading books, etc. I did my first raw dogging of the flight.
You did it?
On this flight. I did it. Mainly because it was like a 2-hour flight, I think. But it was so early in the morning that I really didn't want I didn't want to move, hardly. I really didn't want to move, if I'm being honest. And so we raw dogged it, man. And look at the experience that I got to witness. Had I clothed myself metaphorically, I wouldn't have heard the children screaming. I wouldn't have recognized and been in touch with the feet that were touching me and to my right. I don't know if that's actually true, but the point remains fully focused and intact. And I didn't even walk into the flight saying, I need to raw dog this flight. It's just something that naturally occurred. And so I wouldn't say that's a point of pride on myself. That's just a fact that happened that I figured it's worthy of sharing as we're talking about things to do on flights.
Yeah, I think especially in this day and age, it's pretty telling where we're at as a society when you say, how long was your flight? Was it 2.5 hours, something like that?
Yes.
About 2.5. I think it's telling to say, look, this is and I applaud you, right? For doing that. But to say, it's this big trend of like, oh my goodness, can I sit on a 2-hour flight and just, not do anything? You know what I mean? Just be still, right? You'll have the dude next to you with like an Oculus headset on. He's got AirPods and he's like watching highlights from like the Ukraine war or something like that. And you're just trying to raw dog a flight. But it's pretty crazy because we do have a lot of ways that we can, distract ourselves. Like you said, I think even in public, especially like if you're in line at the grocery store, this isn't me, but I've seen other people, if you've got to wait 1 minute, like you said, somebody gets their phone out, they're on scrolling Instagram, TikTok, whatever. I'm like, just look around, look at other people, But obviously, a flight is an exaggerated version of that because it's much, much longer. But yeah, good for you. Genuinely, I applaud you for doing that.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd do it again, right? It was, like I said, it was kind of unintentional. But what's funny about the raw dogging of flights, of the trend, is the only way for someone to share that they raw dogged a flight would be to record themselves raw dogging the flight. And that in its very nature disqualifies them from raw dogging the flight because they've used their phone. And so I'm here to say I don't have any video evidence. But check the black box.
I was gonna say Pixar didn't happen, dude. Pixar didn't happen. But Yeah, I would prefer like a little short little vlog once you land. Hey guys, I just raw dogged this flight. But if you do it while you're in the air, that is 1,000%, grounds for disqualification. In my eyes, at least.
Yeah. And so that happened two or so weeks ago, and I'm kind of curious what your life has been like recently. I mean, we missed a week or so, and that's just kind of the nature of the beast. It happens, and we appreciate our listeners' grace upon our lives. And look, we care about you, and we love you deeply and generously, and that's why we do this. And just because we don't talk to you for a week doesn't mean we love you any less.
It's true. It is true. And I was, just a little sneak peek into later in the week. Your parents ended up coming into town, and your mom, she really scolded me. I don't really know how to say it, but she was very disappointed in me and you for not recording last week. And I said, look, madam, we had a hurricane. We've got a hurricane. I had to come back and I was going to say put our lives back together. We suffered no damage. All right. So I'm not going to say that, but it was hectic for sure. And, for some of the people out there that don't know, my wife and I are expecting a second child in the coming weeks. And by in the coming weeks, we mean in like 2 or 3 weeks. So a lot of work around the nursery that we have been putting off. I am a master procrastinator. So we said, look, this is really hectic. Let's skip the week. The hurricane got us off of our, this is a bunch of excuses. It got us off of our routine, but here we are. We're back on it. And all that to say, we're probably going to be off our routine here for the next couple weeks. I know next week we're going to be doing our Patreon conspiracy theory episode. We're going to have a special guest for that one. So that's going to be a 3-man team tackling that one. But yeah, as the baby comes, obviously we're going to have to just feel it out. And we appreciate you guys in advance for just bearing with us through that. So
we might even do an episode in the hospital room, in the delivery room. You never know.
A little mid-delivery vlog would go crazy for the Patreon, only for the Patreon.
Oh yeah.
So
I mean, that might be step tier 2 Patreon.
Yes. But my week was good this past week. I would say Monday was pretty typical. It was busy. Tuesday was honestly kind of the same as far as work goes. But Tuesday afternoon, I get a call. Stetson's got he's got a cough. He's got a runny nose. And Molly calls me. She says, look, it's probably 2 PM. You got to go get Stetson or meet me at his doctor's appointment, because she had an appointment with her OB. She's like, we need to take him to urgent care. He's got a fever and everything else. We got to get him checked out. So I meet her at her doctor's office. I take him. He's just in miserable shape, frankly. It was very sad to see, because he's just such a vibrant young lad. But he was super sick. We took him in and he got swabbed for every sickness under the sun. And turns out he had RSV, and R stands for respiratory. And I don't know what the rest of it is, but he had this nasty cough. You could hear the mucus in his throat. It's really pretty gross. And obviously, it's super contagious, so they wouldn't let us back to daycare for like the rest of the week. So Wednesday, I had to go to work. Molly took off, and then Thursday, I stayed home with him and, did my best to work from home while he was there. Usually he's pretty good, pretty easy to work from home with, but whenever he's sick, he's just a little more needy, He needs the snuggles. He needs to watch a movie or three. So yeah, that was like, I've got meetings from 9 to 11. I'm going to put on, Moana and then Cars, plug in the headphones and just take the meeting with him right there. So he interjected on a couple meetings, but I think people understood the situation I was in. So, but yeah, Thursday working from home, I think we went for like 3 walks, just, try to get him out of the house, get a change of scenery. I'm trying to think if there was anything else crazy that happened. Oh yeah. Molly had a teacher parent conferences with all of her kids' parents. They crammed them all into one night. So she left before Stetson woke up, and she got back at 7:30, which is after his bedtime. So I had no reinforcements the whole day while he was sick, and it wasn't that difficult, but he definitely favors his mother, so that was a little tougher on him. It was pretty sad to see because he was asking for her quite frequently, but I try not to take offense to it.
Mama.
Yeah. No, except it was like as he was catching his breath from between cries, and he's got it's just so sad, so sad. So I will say on Tuesday, I am glad that Molly did not take him to the doctor, because all the poking and prodding that they did to him, they did like a throat swab. They did 2 nose swabs. And I had to restrain him for that. I don't really know if Molly would have had the willpower to do that, because it was pretty sad. It was pretty sad. So, Friday, your parents came in town super late Thursday night. So Friday I was able to go to work, and your parents watched him on Friday, which was super nice. That just great timing, really. And they don't care about getting sick, which is also great. So yeah, Friday went to work, got some Miller's Ale House for lunch with some of my coworkers. So that was a blast. Trying to think. Got home, hung out with your parents here for a while. For dinner, we got food from this local, it's like a sports bar, I think. It's called the Grayson. And I was like, oh, they're just going to have, sports bar food. But I got these blackened shrimp tacos that were phenomenal. And everyone else's food looked really good. So if you're in the area and you haven't been to the Grayson, it's good food. It's good stuff. Let's see here. Saturday was pretty eventful. Saturday morning, we woke up and I had to take my truck in to get an oil change. And I said, Molly, let's go ahead and, she's liable to have this baby any day. So I said, let's go ahead and, we can early vote. We've got a brand new library that's like half a mile from our house. I'll take my truck in. On the way back, we'll get breakfast and we'll early vote. So I take my truck in. We go to early vote. There's a line. We get there. I mean, it opens at 8:30. We got to the precinct at 8:35, and there was probably 30 people in line, meaning that the inside was already full. I was like, wow, this is kind of, I guess it's a Saturday morning. It makes sense. But they had a really good system, really efficient. It only took like 10 minutes for us to get in. go through, it was nice and quick, get the ballot, print it up for you, get it filled out, send it in. And we were on our way. I will say, I think whenever I'm older and retired, I think I want to be a poll watcher. I think that's what they call them. The people that work at the precincts. It just seems like such a great thing to do whenever you're old. This guy, he was standing outside. He had kind of like an old school, like bucket hat on. He had a polo, like an American flag polo. I was like, this is just great. I want to do this when I'm old and retired. And I think they make pretty good money too.
Well, I'll tell you, one of my friends and she has a job, but she's taking off that day to be a poll watcher, and she's pretty excited.
So is she going to be like a greeter, keep people in line, or is she going to be actually watching to make sure there's no funny business?
She's not a funny business detector. She's hey, welcome to the day of your life.
Right.
This is
welcome
election
to the
day.
end.
This is election day. And she can't persuade people to vote one way or the other, because that would be treason, I think. Fraud, election fraud.
That sounds more accurate. Yeah. But it was nice. I mean, we're in this brand new library. They got a big open space. Smells nice. Smells like new carpet in there. It's pretty great. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that happened. We got these cool stickers. I thought, oh yeah, I do have one actually. We had these voting stickers. I think they had a competition at one of the elementary schools.
That's pretty cool.
To see who can draw the best I voted sticker. And for all of our listener onlys, it says I voted Manatee County. And it's got a picture of a manatee holding an American flag.
Clearly drawn by a child.
Yes. Well, look, I don't think this is a better manatee than I could draw. I'll be honest with you.
Well, that's what I think. Children can draw better than adults, if I'm being honest. They have a better theme to their drawings. Those are my thoughts. So I was celebrating. I was saying it's awesome. I think it's very cool that they put the power in the people's hands, the people being the children, and their contribution to election day is actually massive, because people celebrate their I voted, and what they're actually doing is celebrating the children and the county in which they live. I mean, whoever your superintendent or county commissioner is, they need a raise.
Well, I don't know about a raise, but they certainly, whoever drew this did a really good job.
They're remarkably thoughtful.
Yes. Yes. I think children, when they draw, I think you have nothing else going on as a child, right? So you sit down, you draw, you take your time, you get creative with it. Adults, if you had them draw this, they would take 45 seconds. They would say, I've got a call in 15 minutes that I've got to get prepped for. Here's a manatee. You know what I mean?
Or let me pose this. Adults are not innocent. They've been tainted by the world, so they think their drawing must be absolute perfection. And they lose the innocence of their craft for the sake of another person's view on their work. And that is just an abomination to creativity.
I think I partially agree with that. I still really think that adults would just rush through it rather than try to perfect it. I guess, I don't know. It depends on what industry you work in, possibly. But either way, cool stickers. They were applauding first-time voters. So there was this lady who was at the actual, ballot scanner, and you go and you send your ballot through, And I guess it said if you were a first time voter, and it was kind of like when you first walk into Moe's. Hey, welcome to Moe's. You know the way they do it. We've been to Moe's thousands of times, but it was like, we got a first time voter. And everyone, all the poll, this lady had like a triangle. Ding, 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 ding. Yeah! Not really, but it was, they were celebrating first time voters. So that was great. Possibly a little bit distracting for the other voters, but look, if you haven't done your research before then, I don't know what to tell you. So after we voted, we went to Chick-fil-A, picked up some breakfast, a little brekkie break. Got back to the house. Your dad had prepared all sorts of sweets, right? Because of Halloween. I'm sitting here during this episode munching on some candied pecans and some delicious Sandies. So I don't know if you've received any sweets or not. Apologies if not. Apologies, if I ruined your Halloween there. But we get back and Stetson is in his chair eating breakfast and he's just eating cookies. And it's like 9:15. And I'm like, look, your grandparents, this is great. I'm so glad you're having a blast. Frankly, I think it's great that you guys are having so much fun because he has more fun with you guys than he does with me. But that's probably because I don't give him cookies so early in the morning. But look, once again, you're a grandparent. You can do whatever you please. At least it wasn't like fentanyl,
I think that fentanyl is a worse alternative.
Yeah, but it's close. Not really. I'm being tough, but we came back. I was like, look, buddy, I got Chick-fil-A for us all and he's eating cookies. I was like, well, looks like you don't need any Chick-fil-A's because, you're all full. You've had your breakfast. So, but we finished up breakfast. We went for a walk around the neighborhood. And after he took a nap, we went over to the mall and I got some new running shoes because my running shoes I got them in 2020. So they're almost 5 years old. And they feel like they're 5. I can feel the concrete beneath me when I run. So, which isn't often that I run, but I got these new ones and I'm going to try to get out and exercise a little more before the baby comes. And then once the baby comes, who knows, maybe I'll continue. It's highly unlikely, but I want to try.
I believe in you.
I appreciate that. I really needed that from you. So yeah, Saturday got some new shoes. And then today we didn't go to church this morning because Stetson still just has a nasty cough. We're going to try to send him to daycare tomorrow and see what they say, but he's on like day 6 of RSV. So I think he's definitely on the downhill. He's kind of crossed the peak there. He's on the other side of it, but, still doesn't sound great, but yeah, I just didn't want to send him to the nursery and then be the guy that gave, 10 kids in the nursery RSV, because I sent him. So we actually watched West Side online because our church only live streams the second service. And I made eggs and bacon this morning. It was like 9:20. I was like, just pull up West Side, so that was an enjoyable experience. And then we got to watch Bo do the announcements from a few weeks ago, and Stetson really enjoyed watching that. Made him feel like he still had visitors in town. So,
Well, there is a secret channel that has kids' stories read to them that you could access for them.
I did forget about that.
And even our subscribers don't even know about that. So maybe we should open that up to tier 2 subscribers in the future.
It's not a bad idea. Look, we can, and even if we have to change the people, if we want to make some new episodes, we can either bring back, the original duo, or we can swap some folks out, do some celebrity appearances and do it that way.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen, but it sounds like you've had a great week. I mean, your child is sick. That's never fun. You got to spend more time with your child under poor circumstances. You got to snuggle with your child. You got to take care of the child. And I think there is a reward there. Just poor circumstances. RSV is also no joke. RSV is a problem that sweeps the nation and the world, quite frankly, with young children. And this is an important disclaimer to parents and caretakers out there, is never let, I won't say never, you should really watch who's kissing your children. That's how RSV is transmitted, through the lips of others. And frankly, you don't want anybody's lips that you don't trust on your child. And so just be careful out there. We got to keep on guard and on watch. And maybe that was a daycare worker who put their lips on your child, and maybe that daycare worker should be sued. Now, I'm not bringing that up as a potential opportunity or feasible course of action. But what I am saying is, it might have happened.
Right. I hope not. I will say, since he's almost 2, he's several. He's 3-4 months away from being 2. So once you get past a year, I think you can fight it a lot better, because you're up and walking, you're upright, the mucus can drain. But whenever you're, less than 6 months, that's typically when babies really struggle, because they're on their backs. They can't, roll too well. And their bodies are just so fresh and, new, and they don't know how to fight off this virus. So definitely scary for newborns. Disclaimer to everybody out there listening. Like you said, if there's a baby that's born in the wintertime, even if you're like the grandparent or great grandparent, don't kiss that baby. I'll go ahead and say it for all the parents out there, all the new parents that don't want to tell people to not kiss their baby because they're afraid of hurting their feelings. Please don't kiss the baby. Kiss the baby on the back of the head if you have to, right? But it's best not to. Kiss them on the foot. That's great. A little baby's foot is so sweet. Kiss that baby all over their foot. But the cheek, the head, and the mouth, don't be out there Frenching a baby. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. You're going to start giving kids RSV.
And frankly, if you think about it, would you want a stranger kissing your foot, neck, head, or lips? Would you want that happening to you? Because basically that's what's happening. You are a stranger to that baby. No matter how much you love them, you're a stranger, and that baby doesn't know you. And could that be assault? Now, I'm not here to say it is, but I am here for us to critically think about this. Do you get a free pass just because they're fresh? I mean, many people say that's highly illegal.
Right. I mean, you could say, look, this guy just kissed me on the cheek to the police, Like, oh, well, what's your relation? How long have you known him? And if the baby's a week old, the baby's like, I've been around him for like a week. I've literally talked to him once. They would be like, okay, lock this dude up. You know what I mean? So you're definitely right. I mean, we are all strangers here except maybe mom, the mother of the baby and partially the father. I think they're not really strangers because the baby can hear the voice in the womb, and obviously she smells the milk on mama, she or he. But grandparents, cousins, they're total strangers,
Nurse practitioners, nurses. I mean, nurse, get your hands off my baby.
Yeah.
They don't know you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And I'll say this shortly. The real assault is when they're first born and they pick that baby up and they have to, get them to cry basically so they can start breathing air. You probably haven't ever seen it, but they rub the back, rub it. I'm like, oh, okay. Maybe she's like warming him up. And then they smack that baby on the back. They say, smack, smack, smack. I'm like, what are you spanking him? He's 2 seconds old. Give him a second. Let him get his feet under him at least a little bit, Golly.
That's CPR. That's another disclaimer, ladies and gentlemen. If a child is choking, do not press their chest. Press their back.
I don't know if that's true. I would look up a video on that.
Well, maybe not a real life video because it'll be sad, but yeah.
I think it's more so the belly than the chest, but that's neither here nor there. I would love to hear about your week more than anything.
More than anything, you say?
Yes, yes.
I don't know if I believe you, but I'll still share number one. Sunday leads you to Monday, because that's when the week starts in the world of the Quite Frankly podcast. And Monday, quite frankly, I did a little bit of everything. And my Monday, it looked a lot like I returned from a conference. All right, so I worked until later in the evening. I ate some dinner. Then I went to my boy Dylan Bossie's flag football game at 10 p.m. and I celebrated. I got a message that said, "What are you doing at 10 p.m.?" And the message read, "What are you doing at?" You know how the preview says. And I'm thinking, I can't commit to another thing right now, except unless it was when I did way later. And it was way later. And so I said yes. And it was one of the great moments of my life because you get to see your boy play flag football. You get to spend time with people you love deeply and generously. And those two things combine, and it's just a wonderful time in the presence of those in which you care for. Well, that was the last activity in my evening, so I return home and I begin to watch an episode of Shut Eye. And Tuesday rolls around. Tuesday is another work day. It's a classic. This time, however, we go and Tuesday is life group day. So we're talking 1 Corinthians 14, which is all about prophecy in tongues and orderly worship. And it was a great discussion on the role of prophecy in tongues in churches today, the spectrum in which you could believe. Ultimately, speaking in tongues does not save you. Prophecy does not save you. Can you believe that prophecy in tongues exist? Yes. Can you believe that prophecy in tongues no longer are active and still be saved? Also, yes. And so that's kind of the discussion because it's not a black and white issue. I would hardly call it an issue. It's not a black and white yes or no. It's very gray. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about it is you can allow for disagreement and discussion while all focusing on how do we have orderly worship at the same time. And that's what the people in the Corinthian church were dealing with as well. So it was good. Tuesday afterward, Well, my boy Jimmy hits me up. He says, what you doing tonight? And I say, you already know, brother. And what was that? Well, we hit up the Las Margaritas double chicken Jalisco double rice, no beans, por favor. Si, senor. And that was that was absolutely phenomenal. I got to spend some time with James and discuss life, honestly, and it's just one of the great moments of my month. I mean, and we try to make it happen monthly, and it's a great occurrence. Wednesday rolls around. Wednesday is the night of Mission Fest. All right, Mission Fest is a yearly missions conference in which people are equipped to reach their neighborhood and the nations with the gospel. We got to be motivated. Our life is about making disciples, the Great Commission. Share the gospel, make disciples. Very simple commission. In word, harder to live out. But the point being, no matter where you are, whether that's a corporate job, whether that's no job, whether that's a child with RSV, our job is to make disciples, fulfill the Great Commission, share the gospel. And so we were equipped to do that. We heard from the president of the International Mission Board. I thought that was cool, named Paul Chitwood. He gave a great word. Got to hear about a few missionaries as well. And so that was awesome. The other thing is, after Mission Fest, we gathered, Zach Allen and I, we gathered at BJ's Brewhouse and Grill. BJ's Brewhouse and Grill. And we celebrated the opening night of the National Basketball Association. And that was a lot of fun. It was the Suns against the Clippers, I think. That was a great game. And that was another late evening, but again, spent in the presence of those you care deeply about. You prioritize your time in a manner that prioritizes the people that you love. And it's very telling as well. And I love Zach. Thursday rolls around. Thursday is the 24th of October. And frankly, I don't really remember what I did Thursday evening, but it was something prayerfully that was fruitful. The 25th of November, or October, I've been saying the wrong month, I believe. The 25th of October, then comes Zombie Dodgeball. Zombie Dodgeball is a yearly event for our college ministry at the church, and I had the pleasure of volunteering as a referee. And if you know anything about refereeing, you have to hold the line of right and wrong, in or out. And to be quite frank with you, many people were very, very angry with me because they, quite frankly, did not read the rules before playing. And so whenever you first get exposed to the rules in action, you begin to become unpleased and unpleasant. And I had to walk onto the court and throw a few people off the court because they just were not listening to me blow my whistle. And I blew my whistle loudly, and I blew my whistle many times. Yet the ears of the people were not listening. It just went in one ear and out the other. And we think about the constant noise in our life. We fail to recognize the words and the power in which we say things, and things are said to us, and we just see it as an endless loop of in one ear, out the other, and then it's in the abyss. More stuff in, more stuff out, and we retain minimal information, much like we experienced at Zombie Dodgeball. Now, all of that to say, it was a great night, but that's the job of the referee. You have to call people in or out. It's one of the great jobs because there is a black and white. It is not the gray. And there is no tension in between the rules because you have clearly defined the rules if you have the referee. So that was Zombie Dodgeball. Zombie Dodgeball is great. Saturday rolls around. Saturday, I play pickleball with a few members and few friends of mine. And after pickleball, some of us gather at Chewy's. And Chewy's, we already know, small chicken tortilla soup with as much creamy jalapeno as possible. And we talked about it a few months ago, as we had a waitress who walked up to us, our table, and shared with us, "Do you want more creamy?" And that was referring to creamy jalapeno sauce. And we thought that was interesting. Well, we now had a male server, which is a waiter, and he shares that same verbiage. "Do you want more creamy?" And I thought that was an interesting thing for you to say. And maybe it's just me and my friends who are interesting, because it seems as if that's the common lingo there. Do you want more creamy? Not creamy jalapeno sauce, not creamy jalapeno paint, but do you want more creamy? And I think that's an interesting product to offer as a corporate restaurant goes. The rest of Saturday, I lie on my couch, I do a little bit of work, and I watch television, specifically college football. And it was quite a nice Saturday. Sunday rolls around. We dive in deep. Final day of Mission Fest with Dr. Stephen Rummage, who is the executive director of the Florida Baptist Convention. He said for the past 9 weeks and 2 hurricanes, but he talked about the strength of surrender. And the many people might think that is an oxymoron. We give up. Surrender. It's a bad thing. You got to fight the fight the good fight. Well, oftentimes when we try to fight ourselves out of things and fight ourselves into things, that's just pride talking. And he specifically pointed out that surrendering to God is the strongest thing you could do. And it's quite an interesting dynamic, because the more you surrender to God, the more strength you find in God. Imagine that. I think we have a lot of people, sometimes myself included, is we try to draw strength from God, but we aren't fully surrendered to God. And so those two things actually are oxymorons. So what you find yourself doing is you're pulling yourself apart from the strength of God as we try to play God to a certain extent. And so the importance of surrendering fully to God, and that be your source of strength, so that you can be a vessel for God, because that is the sole purpose of our lives. Because if we remember anything, it is that we are to share the gospel, advance the gospel, and make disciples, reach our neighbors, the neighborhoods, and the nations with the gospel. And that's how my week closed out. I'm sitting here right now talking to a man I love deeply and generously, and quite frankly, I would get killed for, shot 2 times in the heart if I had to be serious about it. And what a beautiful, beautiful way to end the week.
Well, it sounds phenomenal. I think the flag football deal, is that a college? Is that an intramural situation there? Or
It's an intramural, so master's degree intramurals.
Ooh. Yeah, I was about to say college is that's the only time in life where you could say, hey, let's play a game of football at 10 p.m. Pretty wild, but I applaud you for going, because I honestly probably would have stayed home. I probably would have gone to bed. So good on you for that. Like I said, I think the message this morning at Westside was very good. I think you did a good job of kind of recapping that. But yeah, it sounds like you had an extraordinary week. Sounds like it was busy, with some late nights as well. Seems like almost every night was a late night for you.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I can feel the effects of that. At the same time, I don't know that I would change the way in which I structured my week, because I thought it was fairly rewarding, and reflecting on it, I thought it was worth it. Now, there were some points in my week, if I'm being honest, that I felt worn out. I felt downtrodden. But again, I think this is precisely what Rummage was talking about, is our fuel and our source of strength comes from our surrender to Christ. And so being intentional about that was a good reminder for me.
Is that his last name is Rummage?
Rummage. Rummage.
Wow. I've never heard that last name before. That's
It's.
pretty special.
I'd go. It's British. English. I mean, Rummage.
You think
Dr. Stephen Rummage.
so?
It doesn't sound American. It doesn't sound French. Could it be German or English?
I don't know.
European, at the very least?
I would, and this isn't a knock on the guy. He had an incredible sermon. I'm sure he's a great pastor. It just kind of made me think of like what raccoons do. But
I'm gonna rummage all through the trash.
yeah. But yeah, he did an excellent job. Excellent job, like you said. I do want to pose one other question to you that we could talk about as short or as long as you'd like. To the listeners that are only listening and not watching, I have a Christmas tree up behind me, as you might see. I also have a stocking. Not sure whenever we clip this video if you're going to be able to see the stocking, but there's a little sneak peek as to what our daughter's name is going to start with. So a little Easter egg back there, just kind of poking out from the side of the tree. But I want to get your thoughts on Halloween. I think we've discussed this before about when to put up Christmas items and kind of your general thoughts and feelings around Halloween.
All right, so I'm hearing two different questions. What are your thoughts on Halloween and when I should put up Christmas items? Or
I think they go hand in hand in my mind.
like, should we celebrate Halloween or should we decorate for Halloween?
You can take it any way that you would like to take it.
Okay. Well, as a year-round Christmas treeer myself, now I will put the delineation in here, is that I did not start turning on my Christmas tree until the beginning of October. And not even the beginning, but the first day it hit 60 degrees, I turned it on. Now, through the months of January, maybe I kept it on in January, if I'm being honest. So in the months of February through mid-October, it's just basically an artificial tree. It's an artificial plant, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you don't turn the lights on. It's just there for decor. Anyway, so I'm a year-round Christmas treeer, so I have no problems. I have my centerpiece at my dining room table is filled with Christmas ornaments, and that's been in there for a year. And many people think that's laziness and lack of storage. Frankly, it's my desire and love for the birth of Christ Jesus and celebrating Santa Claus. And I love big fat white men from the North Pole. What can I say? And so many people disagree with that logic, and that's okay. They have the right to believe that. Now, as far as my thoughts on Halloween, do I think we should celebrate it? And by we, I mean, I think we as in Christians, followers of Jesus, I don't really necessarily have a problem with Christians celebrating Halloween, depending on how you define Halloween. If Halloween is a celebration of your neighborhood, it's a time where your neighborhood is in unity with one another, and you're building community, and you're celebrating that, and you're having fun, and you're passing out candy and eating candy. Man, that sounds like an absolute blast. Now, I think people will get into the origins of Halloween, which I think it was created by the Church of Satan or some paganistic type thing. I really haven't done a ton of research, but my point being, if Christians are hesitant to celebrate Halloween because of the fear of the stronghold of the demonic force in their life, then they have not read their Bible, because the Holy Spirit cannot be overtaken by the demonic forces. In fact, God is in complete control of the demonic forces, and if you are a follower of Christ, you have the Holy Spirit in your life, then the Holy Spirit is not going to allow the demonic forces in the depths of evil and the prince of the powers of the air to enter into your life. Now, can demonic forces be at work outside of your life? Can it be affecting your life? I believe 100% it can. But that is not limited to Halloween. That can go as far as how I use this phone, how I use the laptop I'm using. I could read my Bible in the wrong way. I could read my Bible out of context. I could apply the Bible to my life in the way in which I wanted to. I believe even Moses or Noah, I forget who did that same thing. I think there's a prophet, maybe Joseph Smith, false prophet, Church of Mormon, Book of Mormon, who ripped out pages of the Bible to fit what he wanted it to. I think that is the demonic forces at play. And so my point being, when we look at Halloween, we think that's a catch-all for, oh, we're feeding into demons. Well, it's all about the heart, I believe. Is there wisdom? If you feel convicted that you should not celebrate Halloween because of what it may lead you to, I would encourage you not to celebrate Halloween. That is, I believe, wisdom and discernment from the Holy Spirit into your life. But again, I don't think it's a black and white thing as far as, I'm going trick-or-treating, you're the devil. I don't think that's how it works.
Well, that's certainly that's an interesting way of looking at it. I think that's a good way of looking at it. I do think, me personally, I wholesale reject Halloween. I think if you dress up as Buzz Lightyear, I think you are going to hell. Jokes, obviously, all around. it's too easy. Look. I agree with a lot of what you said there. I think just walking around our neighborhood, I can appreciate a version of Halloween that is pumpkins, silly scarecrows, things of that nature. But walking around my neighborhood, there is some stuff that are scenes out of like scary, like scenes out of The Exorcist, and just stuff that is just overtly demonic. I don't think we should be going around, dressing up our houses with witches and other demonic little characters and things like that. I would say, you want to put some pumpkin, a little jack-o'-lantern out. If you want to put some, silly little skeletons that are wearing like a ball cap and like a, maybe a Florida State jersey would be funny. But yeah, I think there's certainly a line to be drawn to where it's like, hey, we're having fun. It's like a fall tradition. The like you said, the neighborhood gets together. We're all out in the driveway, handing out candy, eating chili, having a good time. But yeah, like I said, I think there's a line to be drawn with, hey, I'm going to dress up like the chick from The Exorcist. You know what I mean? Now I will say we haven't decorated at all for Halloween because I love Christmas so much. Part of it is we've got a baby coming and we're not really going to be able to, we're not going to have time to put up the Christmas tree and things like that. But I just love putting up Christmas stuff in mid-October. It really sends that signal of, I don't mess around with Halloween, okay? Stetson's going to dress up as Old MacDonald. It's going to be so cute. He's already got his overalls. And I'm sure me and Molly will be some other character that assists Old MacDonald. Maybe I'll be like Simple Jack or something like that. But yeah, I think it sends a great sign whenever you go ahead and set everything up for Christmas in mid-October. You tell everybody, look, I'm not messing around when it comes to this Halloween stuff. We will be participating, but we won't be putting any demonic characters out in our lawn. Yeah.
And what I'll say is, from a decor standpoint, I'm with you. I think that the scary characters are one, they're ugly. I don't want that on my lawn. And number two, it's expensive to decorate your home, and I'm not spending money on Halloween stuff. I hardly bought a Christmas tree, but I wanted a Christmas tree, and that was expensive enough. I mean, I think it was like $60, and I said, "Whoa, man, I gotta get this. I gotta go buy. I should buy an artificial one from the dump or something." Anyway, but what I wanted to ask you was, have you ever watched a scary movie before, like The Exorcist, of which you are sharing?
I haven't watched a scary movie since maybe high school or early college. I haven't watched one, I could confidently say, within the past 5 years.
Is that out of a place of conviction or convenience?
I don't know if I think partially conviction, but I think mostly it's not my genre. You know, I feel like in high school it's kind of fun. You're like, oh, you're with your friends. There's going to be some jump scares, you know. Maybe there's this nice girl you want to sit by and like hold hands or something like that. And we can all watch a scary movie and jump all at the same time, you know. But yeah, I mean, especially with Stetson, like I'm not going to go watching a scary movie, especially if it's like super demonic. If I know that it's like overtly demonic, then I won't watch it. But yeah, that's my long answer to your question there.
Well, here's an unprocessed thought. I think I might believe this. I think watching scary movies, not scary. I mean, scary is a spectrum. So let's rephrase. Watching demonic movies, things with demonic activity, could invite the presence of demonic activity into the home in which you watch. Now, with a child like Stetson, who has not fully accepted Christ, can he be possessed by a demon? I absolutely I believe he could. I do. And so I think you do have a responsibility then to not watch demonic activity movies, because I do believe that it could invite the presence of demonic activity into your home. Now, could you be possessed by a demon because you watch it? No. And isn't that the beautiful thing? Because you have the Holy Spirit inside of you. And so isn't that the beautiful thing of love? Is even if you like scary movies, which you don't, but if you like that type of genre, you would have to deny yourself for the sake of your child. And isn't that exactly what God did for us? I think it's a picture of the sacrifice and the lines drawn from what God did for us. He wanted us to flourish. So he denied himself. He denied his fathership, for lack of a better word, so that he could be the father of many. In the same capacity, we have to deny ourselves for the sake of the flourishing of the people around us. Those are my thoughts.
And they're good thoughts. They always are. They always are. I will say, I just remembered I did watch Yellow Jackets, which is like, I wasn't expecting that to be demonic. It was a little demonic, but I didn't know until I was like 6 episodes in. I was in it for the cannibalism. I was like, look, it's going to be like that, that rugby team, that Argentina rugby team. They crashed the plane, they got to eat the guy that died. That's what I was thinking. And then you get halfway through the season, you're like, oh, it's like kind of demonic. That's dumb. So yeah, that was a TV show. You didn't ask about TV shows. You just asked about movies. So,
I think it's a powerful example of your personal experience. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's an interesting topic. I think a lot of people don't think about those ramifications when they engage in Halloween and watching scary movies and things like that. But certainly something to think about. Certainly something to think about. So,
angels, demons, in the unseen realm. People should study it.
For sure. For sure. Read the Screw Tape Letters. It's legit. It's legit.
Resource recommendations of the Quite Frankly podcast.
They don't stop. They're untouchable. They're the greatest recommendations. Some are saying. There's a lot of people talking, and they're saying that it's the greatest possibly.
So what is your song of the week? The greatest possible song of the week you could have?
My song of the week is by the Red Clay Strays. They are, once again, another recommendation. They are just so good. Nothing ever misses with them. Like not a single thing. So this song is Will the Lord Remember Me? And yeah, it's this one that they just released on Spotify is, I think they did a show at the Ryman a month or two ago. And so they recorded it live there. So that's kind of a cool one, but it's, one that they hadn't released prior. So it's a new song, but it's really good. How about you?
I love it. My song is Came to My Rescue by Josh Baldwin. And it's a classic song. It wasn't originally by him, but he covered it. But the flow of this song is absolutely phenomenal in my opinion. So I would highly recommend giving it a little listen if you have a free 4 minutes or so.
That's great. That's so good.
Well, any final thoughts for our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, be patient with us. Be encouraging to us, you know? We've got some uncertainty coming up in the next few weeks. And so, like I said, things might get a little sporadic. And I'm really saying this just for your mother here, Bo. Things might get sporadic. Who knows? Maybe a baby will come into the world and, you know, she's going to probably dog me for not coming out with a podcast episode, you know, the day the baby was born. But look, I'm willing to live with that. Okay. I'm going to have to take a stand one of these days. But yeah, like I said, it's going to be touch and go for a little bit, and then we're going to get in a good rhythm, and we're going to be back stronger than ever before. It's going to be more successful, you know, than anybody has possibly ever seen. So
consistency creates momentum. Hear me when I say that. Consistency creates momentum. And what we vow to you, listeners, is that we will be consistent. Now, that does not mean we will be here every week. That is our goal right now. But goals change. But our primary focus and our primary goal of what we want to be consistent in is not checking off a box. Did we record a podcast this week? Our primary goal is, you guessed it, we want to love you deeply and generously. And that is what motivates us to do this. And that is why we will see you, barring a birth of a child, in 7 days.